My name is Matilda Reckford, and I work for the HLS program at the Center for Applied Linguistics. And I'm joined today by Maria.
Hi, everybody. I'm at Georgetown University. I am the Director of Recruitment and the Program Manager here at Georgetown.
And Anna.
Hi everyone, my name is Anna Gay. I am the program manager for the EHLS program at the Institute of International Education here in Washington, D.C.
And we are joined by Kate, our special guest.
Hi, everyone. I'm the director of the EHLS program at the Center for Applied Linguistics, and I'm looking forward to getting a chance to talk with you today.
A little bit about the schedule today. So we're going to talk briefly about the English for Heritage Language Speakers program, and then we'll be here to take your questions. All right. Maria.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. So let me do a quick overview of the EHLS program and tell you who we are and what we do. So what is EHLS? EHLS is a scholarship program with a focus on professional English communication skills and career skills. The program trains advanced speakers of English to be effective communicators and strong candidates for federal jobs. It's hosted by Georgetown at Georgetown in Washington, D.C. Every scholar admitted to the program receives a full scholarship funded by the federal government. The program is 8 months in length. The first 6 months are full-time on the Georgetown University downtown campus. The final 2 months are part-time, conducted online. Participants are native speakers of critical languages who have a strong interest in public service, and EHLS scholars come from diverse cultural, educational, professional backgrounds, but are all united by an interest in and a commitment to public service. So a little bit of background. So why EHLS? EHLS was established because critical language skills are in high demand in the U.S. government. There are other government-sponsored programs to teach critical languages to native English speakers, but this is the only program designed to prepare individuals with native knowledge of critical languages for the federal workplace. So a little background. So brief background on the organizations and the history of EHLS. So EHLS is a partnership among 4 organizations. The National Security Education Program, NSEP, provides the funding. Delencio, that is our funder. The Center for Applied Linguistics oversees instructions and coordinates language testing. That's where Dr. Moran is and Matilda. Georgetown University provides the instructions. That's me and all of the people that would be your instructors later. And the Institute of International Education oversees the application process, and that's where Anna is. EHLS started in 2006. 2023, I can't even believe this, will be our 18th program year. And I am so proud to say that I have been with the program since the end of 2006. And the reason why I'm with this program for so long is because it's an awesome program. Okay, let's see why it's awesome in so many ways, but let's look at some of the scholarship benefits and the terms. So scholarships for the EHLS program are awarded through the National Security Education Program, NSEP, which is administered by the Defense Language and National Security Education Office, Delencio. That is a mouthful. So Delencio is our funder, that office. Each scholarship provides full tuition and fees for 8-month academic program. And in addition, you get a living stipend. So it's $3,600 per month during the first 6 months when you're full-time and you cannot work, and then $1,200 per month during the last 2 months where you can work, and that's the online portion of the program. For scholars moving from outside the DC metro area, NCEP can reimburse relocation costs up to $1,000, but you really need to keep all your receipts. Other benefits, health insurance through Georgetown University, and that is for you personally. You can buy insurance for your family members, but we provide insurance for the scholar. A laptop computer on which you can complete EHLS assignments and that you can keep after the program ends. A certificate from Georgetown University, which is what you get when you complete the program, and it opens doors. So if you successfully complete the program, you get this certificate. You have to agree not to work during the full-time portion of the academic program, and you have to accept a service requirement after completing the program, the academic portion of the program. Okay, so I'm going to pass it over to Anna.
Thank you, Maria. And just to preface, I do apologize if I have to pause and mute myself and cough, but I will try to hold it in as much as possible. Yes, so I will talk a little bit about the eligibility requirements for a successful EHLS applicant or scholar. Firstly, you must be a U.S. citizen at the time of application. Next, you must be a native speaker of one of the 27 languages listed. As you can see, we have quite an extensive list. And you must have a professional level proficiency in that language. You must have advanced proficiency in English, your proficiency in both English and your native language, your critical language, will be formally tested. And we will discuss the details of that process later on in the presentation. Next, you must have a college degree, at least a bachelor's degree or the equivalent of a bachelor's degree in the United States. So we can talk a little bit about that as well. You would need your transcript to be evaluated, and there are services listed where you can have that done. You must be able to use the internet, word processing programs, and PowerPoint. As Maria mentioned, you must commit to a full-time day program from January through June in Washington, D.C. at the downtown Georgetown campus. It is like having a full-time job, but the benefits are just phenomenal. And you must be willing to work for the federal government for 1 year. This would be part of your service agreement afterwards in a position that has national security responsibilities. It will be your responsibility to find that position, although we do provide like a little leg up for that job search. Next, we'll talk about important dates. The application is currently available. Please go to our website, ehlsprogram.org, for the link to that. The deadline for the application and the supporting documents is 5 p.m. on July 6th this year, 2023. Once an application is submitted and considered complete, applicants will be invited to schedule an oral proficiency interview, or OPI, as we call them, in English. That will be your first test. These OPIs will be administered through July 21st, 2023. We highly recommend that as soon as you submit your application and scheduling an OPI as soon as possible to receive a time that works for you in your schedule. We will talk more about this later, but the EHLS staff will notify candidates of their status in September. Some candidates will be provisionally selected to move on to skills testing. This will also include another round of OPIs. In late September to early October, provisionally selected candidates will complete language testing and a basic technology skills test. You will also complete an additional OPI in your critical language. That was the extra one I was talking about in September and October. So you do have a time frame to complete that as well. The EHLS staff will notify candidates of their final status in early November this year, 2023. And then the program begins January 8th, 2024.
Great. So we're now in the more interactive portion of this Q&A where we hope that you can enter questions using that Q&A icon from any of the things that we have covered in the slides before. But we'll kick this off by asking some questions to Dr. Kate Moran, and please feel free to address questions directly to Dr. Kate Moran if you would like to know more. So Dr. Kate Moran is the Director of Adult Language and Communication, as well as Professional Development Specialist at the Center for Applied Linguistics. Under Adult Language and Communication, Kate directs the English for Heritage Language Speakers program here at the Center for Applied Linguistics. So I will kick off by asking some background questions. Kate, could you talk a little bit about your overall experience working for the EHLS program?
Sure. Thank you, Matilda. So my role with the EHLS program at Cal, as Matilda said, is the director. So Cal is the primary contractor. And so I coordinate and work heavily with Delencio and SEP for all aspects of program administration, and coordinate among GU and IIE for all of the things that they do. So with GU for the curriculum delivery and design, and then with IIE for the application process. And then we have, of course, Matilda with us too, who does a lot of work on the recruitment side of the program. And one of the things I love about the EHLS program is the amazing people I get to meet through the application process. We recruit some individuals with absolutely incredible backgrounds, both linguistically, but also just with a variety of skills and experience across many different career types. And I know there were some questions in the chat about, so there's one, how much education is too much education? Does it matter if your education comes from the US? And so while I'm talking about the variety of folks we've had in the EHLS program, I can tell you it has really spanned decades in terms of ages of people in the program. We've had folks come in with bachelor's degrees. We've had folks come in many times with PhDs, law degrees, lots of advanced degrees and training. So the beautiful thing is that in terms of working for the federal government in a position with national security responsibilities, there's a wide variety of things available to you. And we have had scholars go into a very wide variety of jobs to fulfill their service requirement post EHLS. So the program itself is designed to help you develop the both English language skills and also the career skills needed to be successful in the federal government. So within those parameters, then we see a really broad range of people in terms of their educational experience and also their work experience coming into the program.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we alluded to speaking more about the OPI and the English test. And in general, do you have tips on English proficiency and how what is most helpful in the EHS program in terms of developing English professional skills in the program and maybe ahead of the program to prepare maybe for the oral proficiency interview?
Sure, that's a great question, Matilda. I think in terms of preparing for the program and preparing for your proficiency testing, there's not there aren't good preparation guides. There's no course you can take to prepare for your proficiency exams. But some of the things we recommend are just engaging in a wide variety of language use. So in English, listen to the news, read newspapers, seek out conversations with people who are speaking English in professional contexts. Try to, attend seminars or see if you can find professional related talks. There's a lot of them. If you look around through colleges and universities, those types of things are really good for your listening engagement, because it will be people speaking in a register of English that is more akin to academic or professional English. And so those are great opportunities to work on your listening skills. If you have opportunities to engage in speaking with other people about topics that interest you, professional topics or whatever your background area is in English, that can be really helpful as well. But the best thing to do is to engage in a wide variety of language activities in English regularly, so that you become more comfortable communicating in that context. And that's, with the oral proficiency interview, that's kind of the best way to do that, because it is conversational. You will have back and forth with a trained interviewer, and you will be given the opportunity to speak at length on a variety of topics to demonstrate your language skills. So you want to definitely be working on that as often as you possibly can. In terms of the program itself, one thing that's wonderful about the EHLS program is how comprehensive it is. So it's a program that is doing several things at the same time. You're developing your English language skills through activities that are going to benefit you when you get into the federal workplace. So there's no wasted time. It's a very intensive program, so there's really no time to waste. When you're in the first 6 months of your intensive program, the assignments you'll be given, the readings you're doing, the presentations you're making, and also your big capstone project that you'll work on. You'll hear more about the open source analysis project. Those are all tasks that are designed to replicate tasks you will be doing in a position with the federal government. So it's developing all of those language skills plus the career skills that you need to be successful after the program. So I think those are some of the things that make the program really successful. And the other piece I did not touch on outside of the language proficiency assessments, the English proficiency assessments, we also require an OPI in your critical language. So you'll be taking that as well if you are provisionally selected for the program. But in addition, you do need to have basic computer skills. So make sure that you are comfortable using most Office applications for computers. So things like file management, word processing using Microsoft Word, or if you don't have access to Microsoft applications, you can even work on it in Google. But do you have good word processing skills? Do you have good presentation skills in terms of using presentation software? Are you able to conduct internet searches pretty easily and navigate the internet pretty easily? You will have a computer skills assessment, and on our website there is a computer skills self-assessment that kind of goes through all of the basic skills that are going to help you be successful in the program. You won't be assessed on every single one of those skills, but you will be assessed on some of the larger skills that are there. But it is important that you feel comfortable with all of the skills that are on that assessment. That will give you the most chance of success once you're in the program.
I see we have a question in the Q&A about the OPI rate, failure or acceptance rate.
So yeah, this is a good question. It looks like Victoria asked, has anyone ever failed the OPI in their native language? So it's not really a pass-fail situation. It is rated on the Interagency Language Roundtable scale, the ILR scale. And so you're kind of given a score on, on a range. In order to be admitted into the program, you must speak your critical language at an ILR level 3, which is professional level proficiency. So yes, we have certainly had applicants that did not attain an ILR 3 in their critical language and therefore were not able to be admitted to the program. So if that's a concern for you, then in addition to the things you'll be doing to prepare for your English proficiency assessments, I would also encourage you to make sure that you can expose yourself to particularly speaking and listening tasks in your critical language that are at that higher proficiency level, moving toward that professional proficiency level.
Yeah, definitely. I know we have some Q&As that we answered typing, but if Kate or anyone else would like to address any of these orally.
Sure. I see one about the acceptance rate pre and post COVID. So this is a little bit hard to say because our application numbers vary every year. We will be recruiting this year for 18 places within the program. So, but it's really hard for me to give you an acceptance rate both pre and post COVID because as you might imagine, our application numbers shift and change from year to year, depending on all sorts of circumstances and other things. So we do accept up to 18 candidates to award scholarships to. And we often have, I don't know, in the hundreds of applications. So I hope that's a little bit helpful.
Some years we've even, if I may step in, Kate, some years we even had as many as 300 applications. And so, I mean, you can do your own math. If we're accepting 18 and we get 200 applications, that's basically where I think that's like a good middle point.
Yeah.
218 accepted.
Mm-hmm.
I know we answered this in writing, but maybe Kate, could you talk about age expectation or career length expectation? And do federal agencies look for 10, 5, 10, 20-year long careers? So I guess this talks also about the kind of the hiring component for the program, which we definitely get into in our upcoming webinar about what happens after EHLS.
Yeah, which is I would strongly encourage you to also attend that webinar because we'll have representatives from NCEP and Delencio to speak about that. But I can tell you that we don't have any age limits or age expectations other than that you have to have at least a bachelor's degree. So but we are certainly looking for folks that are career minded. As Maria said, the commitment is a 1-year commitment that for your service requirement. But the idea is that we're really looking for people who have a strong interest in service and in having a career within the federal government, particularly with national security responsibilities. So definitely looking for that longer term commitment, something that you can really make your career in. So yes, 5, 10, 20 years, whatever that length may look like. Certainly the agencies that are looking to hire are hoping to hire folks that are in it for the long term and want to grow within the agency. And we've had a lot of folks that have done that. And it's always rewarding. We don't always get to know where people are after the program, but sometimes a name will come up or you'll see what someone's doing. And it's really nice, to see where our alumni end up down the road.
So we talked a little bit about proficiency testing. What is the most difficult thing to demonstrate on a language proficiency test?
So that's an interesting question. I think there's a couple, there's many compounding factors to proficiency testing. for individuals who are taking a test. One, they're high stakes exams, so it can be really hard sometimes to get over the nerves and help yourself relax enough to really be able to demonstrate what it is you're able to do in the language. So the more comfort you can have by preparing and by using language in as many different situations as you can, particularly in this case, English, and really getting yourself comfortable and settled for your assessments, the better. As to which skills are most difficult to demonstrate, I think that really is an individual question. One thing we know about language acquisition, and our applicants, you're all polyglots, right? You're multilingual. Many of you speak, 3, 4, 5 languages. So you're experts in language acquisition firsthand. And language acquisition is not even across the board. It's goes up and down. You have areas you might be stronger in, areas that you might be weaker in. So obviously areas that you're not as comfortable in are going to be the ones that you might have more difficulty with. But I think just really, trying to relax and get as much experience as you can using English in a variety of settings where you can really use those higher level language skills. Thinking about how you might answer higher level thinking questions. So one of the things that I actually have never recommended for EHLS applicants in the past, but I've recommended in other aspects of my career, is to look through something like Bloom's taxonomy and look at those higher order thinking verbs and think about questions you could think of in English that are centered around verbs like create or analyze or evaluate, and work on constructing answers to that. Because if you're able to demonstrate analysis, evaluation, how to create something using English language and demonstrating that you have that higher order thinking process to go behind it, that's going to go a long way in helping both your speaking and your writing. And then for listening, we were talking about listening to news, going to lectures, really exposing yourself to language used at those higher levels will do a lot to help you.
Awesome. I will keep asking questions like I've been, but we also have time to open the floor for you to ask live questions. Speaking, I can unmute attendees who raise their hands. So I will unmute Emma if you have a question. You should be able to unmute.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you for taking my question. Thank you for all the information you've provided so far, and definitely there's more that I need. But my question is with regards to the language. Like Hindi is my language that I'm going to go for. So in that language, am I required to have any subject matter information or just language? Knowing it at do I need to know current events and those types of things?
I think this is a great question because we're looking to measure your proficiency level without you having to have subject matter expertise in one particular area. That said, we're looking to measure, do you have, and I'm not personally giving your OPI, but when you're being interviewed for your OPI, they're looking to see, do you have professional level competency in that language? So some of the things that you talked about would be important there. Can you speak knowledgeably about current events and fluently in your critical language? So it's a great idea to make sure that you are up to speed on things like that. Current events are a really good one. Things that are sort of generally accessible knowledge, but would enable you to speak to using professional level proficiency. Does that help? Maria, you have something to add to that?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Just having proctored a lot of the OPIs, a lot of the testers will ask you current events and things that are happening in the area of the world that you're from. So I would be prepared to kind of know what's going on so that you're not surprised by the question.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I will now unmute Yevgen.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, how are you doing? Thank you. Hi. Thank you very
Hi,
much.
Evan. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Maria. And thank everybody for this Q&A session. And I've been to a previous two webinars, I guess, or sessions that you conducted. So I'm already kind of in the middle of applying, and so my questions are more technical. Uh, do I need to, and it might be sound silly, but do I actually need to know the exact date? Because it requires the date of your employment. I don't know the date. I know the month. And if even if I do know the month, honestly, like I know general time of the year, so I'm gonna pick a month. And the same thing like for a naturalization certificate, I looked at it, I don't know the zip of it. It just says Fairfax County. So I don't know how, like, will this just discount, like if I put a wrong date and then you call the employer and ask, oh, there was 13th, not 15th, will it like disqualify, like it might sound silly, but I don't know how important that is. And then also the address of the employment. I work remote. We kind of do have an address, but there's nobody there. It's like a table with phone on it. So, what should I in these situations do? How these technical issues are evaluated, and will I be disqualified if I put something wrong like that, or not wrong, or
Yeah, that's a great question. Anna, I saw you nodding. I feel like
Yeah.
um,
I'm happy to field this one. Yes, so Evgen, I think if as long as you do have the date of your employment, we do check that you filled out those fields. However, there are certain resume, templates where they just do the month. You don't necessarily need to do the exact date. However, for your date of naturalization and your address, it is best to have that information be as accurate as possible because it is an eligibility factor, correct? So I think for that, what I would do is really just Google Maps where you were naturalized. So maybe the courthouse or wherever the actual
uh-huh.
location was, and put in that zip code. But for that, you definitely want to have the date correct and
Yeah.
specific for the employment. I think, and correct me if I am wrong, Kate, but I do think that you can have that general date range of employment. It just does need to match what is on your resume.
So if I put like the 1st of January to the 1st of November, that's fine, even though it was on the 13th of January.
If it's at the third, if you think it's closer to the middle of the month, definitely go with your first
Okay.
guess. And your first inkling, but definitely don't want to, be like 2 years off,
Well,
if
yes,
that
yes,
makes
yes,
sense.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Okay. Great.
But definitely for your date of naturalization and location of naturalization, that is what we really want to be very specific and very clear. And I will say, just for the folks on the call, that we do review your applications before moving on to the next stage of testing. So if there is something glaringly wrong, we would reach out to you. I would reach out to you, and you'd have a little bit of time to correct that before. I will discuss if it's before the application deadline, then you're good. You have until that time. But we do check it before, just to make sure that all that information does look correct. And if anything looks weird, we reach out to you, and you can have time to correct it.
Great.
Thank you.
I see another question on the national security service jobs in the federal government, and talking a little bit about the specific departments. So we do go over this in our webinars in more detail, where we can show you the specific departments that some of our alumni are working with now, or the different tiered jobs that are that the program has a priority in you looking for positions in those agencies. And we have information on our website as well on those agencies and specific departments. Does anyone want to jump in with more detail on this question? I think this is pretty much a good place to look, and definitely checking our webinars, the general information webinars. We go into detail about those agencies, as well as our webinar called "What to Expect During and After EHLS," and I'll share the schedule. So those are good places to look, and I'll share the schedule of the upcoming webinars, and you can also find recordings on our website. Yes, Yevon, I know you're still unmuted. I don't know if you have another follow-up question.
Well, I do it again. It's very specific. So it says,
Definitely.
I want to ask about the first question of the essays. Is it okay? So describe a situation where your English was a limitation. Does it mean that where my level of English was a limitation, or I was in an environment where like my English, people were hostile to English and I was limited in speaking English? Like, where is it speaking of a level of English, meaning like I wasn't able to word myself well, I guess, or where I should not have spoken English because you see what I'm saying? Like, and that's like stumped me, and I don't know what to, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, for this one, we're definitely getting at a time when your level of English, your proficiency level of English was a barrier for you in some way. Was there some aspect where you wished you could have been able to express yourself a little bit better, where something happened where it limited you? But that's a great question. I see exactly what you're saying with the ambiguity there, and it's not one that I had thought of before. So definitely one for us to make note of, to make sure that we can keep our questions as clear as possible.
Yeah, because the first I read it, I was like, how can the knowledge of any language be a limitation? And then I thought a bit about a different way, and then you confirmed it. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. That's it. I don't have any more questions.
Awesome, thank you.
And
Maria.
at the same time, in a question like that, if Yevon, if you've spoken English for a long time in your life and professionally you've been able to communicate well, I would be, I don't know. I don't know how, and maybe everybody else can, also add what they think about this. It would be hard you don't want to downplay your abilities in answering that question, but you also don't want to be pompous. So you kind of have to balance a bit your answer and be a little bit sophisticated in the way you phrase it.
Okay, thank you. I understand. Yes, I think I know what I'm going to write about.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
And a tip I would share is our website has a selection criteria PDF that you can access, where we would recommend checking those criteria when writing the essay questions, because the reviewing of your essay questions will be based on those selection criteria. Yes, I think that's a good tip for the essay questions. I think, Maria, you always have this good tip also about writing your essay questions in Word and sleeping on it and going back one day later, checking again. So I really like that tip. I think it's a good one for writing good essay responses. Yeah, speaking of tips, Kate, do you have any recommendations for and tips for the application process and for applicants in general?
I'm sure, and I'm sure others on this call do as well. So I will say, and then open for other folks to jump in too. My biggest tip is to apply early. Start your application now. Start it early. I'm really glad that you raised the question about essays because it means you're starting to think about how you want to answer your essays. The earlier you start, the better. Attend these webinars, ask your questions, reach out, ask your questions. Don't rush the process for yourself, and don't have unanswered questions, because we are absolutely here and willing to give you any clarity or help that we can. So starting your application early, planning out those essays, thinking about who you might ask for a letter of recommendation, reaching out to them, making sure that they have a chance to look at the EHLS website, that you can talk about the program and why you would be a great candidate, why you want to be there. Talk about that with your with the person you want to recommend you to the program, so they can really speak to those qualities and qualifications you have that will make you a good candidate. So that's a good one. Matilda was already said, writing your essays in Word and sitting on them, taking some time to think about them, revise them, look at the selection criteria, reread the question, make sure you're answering all parts of the question. The biggest thing to me is don't wait to the last minute. This is one that it doesn't have to take years of your life, but it is a time-consuming process, and you want to give yourself the time to pace it out, to have really thoughtful answers to those questions, to collect all the materials that you need. If you need your transcripts evaluated, make sure you're in that process as soon as possible. We are happy to give you recommendations on places that can evaluate transcripts if that's something you need. But start early. Anyone else? Hot tips you would add?
I
Yeah,
think
I
we
would.
covered it all. Yeah, but Anna, please, yeah.
No, just kind of going off of what Kate said, definitely getting started very early, especially with those transcript evaluations, because they can take some time. And also just being aware that we've had a couple instances in the past where people have gone, not done their transcript evaluations on time, and they were ultimately disqualified for not eligible because they weren't able to get that very key piece of information. Unfortunately, one was out of their control because their university was on strike. So just thinking about those, having the foresight to kind of get started early on that, and just being sure to, if you have any questions at all, reaching out to me, ehls@iie.org. It is the email that is listed on the website in the application page. I'm checking every day, so I will be definitely keeping an eye out for any questions. And just really taking the time to be thoughtful about your answers, be thoughtful about how you are framing them, because you really do hit the ground running in the program. And your application is going to show the reviewers, are you prepared for this program? It is incredibly intensive, but the benefits that you reap from it, you kind of have to set the foundations for yourself. But yeah, I look forward to seeing all of your names in my queue as I'm reviewing. But yeah, just keeping that open line of communication with me if you have any questions, especially technical ones, because we can fix those pretty quickly.
Maria, did you have some tips?
No, I think you guys have really, the two of you have covered everything that I was thinking, and just keep in mind all these really great tips, you guys, because they're very valuable.
Yeah, my tip would be to attend as many webinars and Q&As as you can. I'll share the schedule shortly before the end of our time here, but also, if you keep up to date on our social media and our newsletter, you'll be able to see that some of those Q&As, we're going to have special guests like instructors and alumni to the program. So this might be very valuable information for you to have also as you prepare for the questions, and just generally for you to have a better idea of what to expect during the program. So I would definitely recommend, as you're applying, to just stay up to date with us on our newsletter and our social media, because we'll share some information for you that I think will be very valuable. Yes, I have a kind of a common question that comes up about do we admit one scholar per language? Is a question that comes up, and there's no quota for each language on the application, so that's not part of our criteria. Out of the 18 scholars that we accept, we could have 18 Russian speakers, so it's also something you should keep in mind. Don't self-discriminate based on your language, or also just don't this will not play into the competitiveness of the program.
Just to kind of piggyback off that really quickly before I believe Victoria raised her hand, being sure if you are an applicant from, you know, a really less commonly heard critical language, also not that anyone would, but being sure that you're putting in that due time, because there is no quota for languages, we are not taking your language into account if your application is bad, right? If you have a bad application, but you're the only you know, Dari speaker that we have applying, if your application is not good enough, it will get rejected. Now, I know that sounds kind of harsh, but that really what I'm trying to say is like, don't self-discriminate, like Matilda said, but also don't self-promote just because you think you have a really less commonly heard of language in the EHLS program. Really put in that effort, really put in the time. And, you know, if you're the only Dari speaker in our cohort, amazing, but that's because you worked on your application to be there. So might have sounded a little harsh, so I do apologize, but really just wanting to make sure everyone puts in their 100% effort on their applications.
And basically, we take the best applicants. So based on your application, based on your test scores, everything is compiled, and we just take the top people, no matter what your language is.
Victoria, I think you're unmuted if you have a question.
Yes, hi, and thank you for holding this webinar. I just had a very quick follow-up on the advice that you gave to apply early, which I completely in agreement with, and you might have already answered that question. I apologize if I missed it. Do you then review applications as they come in, or do you wait until July 6th to close and then you review everyone at once?
I'm happy to take this. We do tech review. We'll actually be starting very soon. So we do it on a rolling basis. If I started tech review after the deadline, it would be the worst week of my life. So we do it on a rolling basis, but also that is because if there are, you know, pieces like very critical pieces missing, if there's information that doesn't quite add up, if there's just a wonky formatting from on our side on the application and it's showing you're 150 years old, those are things that we want to catch early so that your application and you have time to fix your application. So we do on a rolling basis. When you submit, I can't tell you when we would get around to your specific application. But if you do have questions after you submit, send me an email and I can definitely take a look and get back to you that day on anything specific. Like if you uploaded the wrong resume or something like that, we can definitely make those changes for you. But they're on a rolling basis.
And also just to note that those are not admission decisions. That's technical review to make sure your application is full and complete.
Yes.
The admission decisions are made by a panel of people that are outside of each. We are not a part of those decisions that are made. We have outside reviewers that are trained and that review all the applications for us. So all of those in terms of decisions for who gets into the program, those are all made together well after the application deadline. But Anna is talking about technical reviewing your application to make sure all the pieces are there, everything's complete, there's no weird wonky errors on there, and that she'll get back to you in time for you to correct those so that it can go and be reviewed by our panel of experts.
Got it. Thank you.
I have a question for Anna. Anna, so in the past, once the tech review is done, and all the pieces are completed, the applicant would get some kind of notification. Is it still, what happens? Can you describe what happens?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So once you submit your application, it will be technically reviewed, as Kate said. Thank you for making that distinction. I realized I was talking in jargon. So after I technically review and make sure that it looks correct and all the pieces are in place, it looks all good. I will then move you forward. So you'll be moved into a group that will be that is open for your next piece of the eligibility puzzle, which is your OPI, your English language OPI. So then after that is all good, you will get an email on how to set those up. Excuse me. So that will be the next step for you to take. So being on the lookout for that. And once that is completed, you'll get more information on, what is going to happen next. So we try to be pretty transparent in that, as transparent as we can be, to be fair to everyone. But you will get emails from Slate when you're ready to move forward to the next stage, which is OPI testing.
Okay, so the email will say, we have reviewed your application, all your pieces are in, and now you can sign up for an OPI.
Exactly. Almost verbatim. Yeah, exactly.
Just to clarify, that OPI is your English OPI. You'll take your OPI in your critical language if you are provisionally selected later on in the fall.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have a few questions typed in the Q&A, but I want to share these valuable dates of webinars for you to look at as we answer these last questions, because we are getting closer to the clock. So you can see here our next webinars, and I would emphasize the general information and what to expect during and after EHLS. We also have a how to apply webinar that you can find on our website. And I'll be sure to announce the guest speakers for these Q&A dates that I'm sharing here. I'll quickly also share all our social media and the floor is for maybe Anna, for the question about the resume, is it says submission of the resume is an optional field. Does submitting one raise our chances, or is it not material to the decision?
So it is optional because we do provide a field for you to go in and fill out individually every job, dates, things like that. So it's, I think it's labeled employment history. But of course we do have, you may have a more robust resume than we have fields to allow for. So it definitely is, it's an additional piece that if you feel strengthens your application, by all means you are welcome to include it, but we do need to have that employment history field filled out as well. So yeah, if it's includes publications and things like that, or if you have really interesting job history, you're welcome to share, but it doesn't influence the ultimate decision. It's just an additional piece to kind of give a better view of you as an applicant, if that makes sense.
Great. We still have a few minutes, so feel free to raise your hand or type any more questions.
The question about working while the full-time portion of the program, Kate, do you want to talk a little bit about that and what kind of basically you are signing an affidavit saying that you will not work.
Yeah. Again, I saw your question, and I know this is part-time and once a week. Unfortunately, we do ask that all applicants or all scholars who are awarded a scholarship sign an affidavit saying that they will not work at all during the 6-month intensive portion of the program. And honestly, you will be really busy. The EHLS intensive program is very much like having a 9-to-5 job. So you show up on campus around 9 a.m., you leave around 5 p.m. every day. You'll also have homework and assignments that you'll be completing on the weekends and after classes in the evening. So unfortunately, no, you would have to at least put a pause for those 6 months on that position.
And we tell people that it's going to be, I can't stress enough how intensive it is, that we tell people, you're going to have to make some kind of other arrangements. If you're the person picking up or dropping off your children at school, figure out who's going to be doing that for you. If you are responsible for, maybe cooking and making, shopping for food, this is all stuff that you're going to have to, get someone else to do, because it is so intensive. I mean, I can't stress enough how much of your life is going to be taken up by this program, in a good way, really, because, what you put into it is what you get out of it.
Agreed. So here are our contact information, and feel free to reach out to us for the specific topics that we have listed here. And on behalf of everyone, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.